I am right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, traveling a bit, and happy to be on the show with a great guest and a great producer and a wonderful co-host. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Yes, seems to us. No way. Feeling good. It definitely. Margot managed the Queen's English there, and we can go other kinds of English too.
I'm doing really well, Craig. Yeah, from Waco, Texas, via South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have a lucky show. I think that's yeah, the Monarchs. Yeah.
He does. He not only knows every college, he knows every high school mascot. It's
Oh wow.
amazing, amazing.
No, we actually don't. No, but I definitely lucked out with the Monarchs. The King of the Jungle, the Lion.
Yeah,
I didn't know about any of this before I came to the US, but I loved the lion in camp, like the statue of a lion on campus. That was pretty cool. It could have been a lot worse.
yeah.
Could have been the Horned Frogs or something. No,
TCU.
no offense to TCU, but anyway. Yeah, no, definitely. We tried to go out there, and I think tomorrow I'm gonna hit the court with a couple of guys in the afternoon. So I think we're gonna give our volunteer a day off, and I'll be on the courts with the guys. So that's gonna be
Excellent.
fun. Yeah, luckily, a couple. I mean, but no, it was a great career. I really enjoyed playing on the tour. It was fun, a lot of fun. Yeah, no, it was a great highlight. I think growing up, I always wanted to play for my country, and playing Davis Cup 13 times has been like definitely a highlight of my career, and many great memories, especially in that team environment. You don't most of the year is individual, and maybe twice or three times a year you get together with the team and the boys, and you can compete for your country. It's a special event, a special week, and a lot of great memories. Learned a lot too from the older players like Wesley Moody, even younger guys, like Kevin Anderson, and you just kind of hanging around and kind of taking it all in. It's a great experience, and I think my first tie was, maybe 1 year out of college or maybe 2 years out of college, pretty early on, and it was great, to get thrown into that, play a five-setter. A couple of months out of college, maybe 8 months out of college. And so it was cool. It was really cool.
Well, and Izak, you're talking about being such a youngster playing Davis Cup for your country. What about when you weren't young? If I recall, you played a Canadian who's almost as tall as you and has a similar game. What was that one like?
Yeah, 2012, we went up to Montreal and we played. It was great to be on a part of the squad. We played 4 years in a row. We played in the advanced relegation match for World Group. So 4 years in a row, we kind of made our way through Group 1 and then played in that that match to kind of advance to. And we played against some tough teams. We played against Germany 1 year in Germany. 2012, we played against Canada, played against Raonic in singles. It was a tough week. I was carrying a couple of niggles, in the back, and it was tough facing that man's serve. I played him a couple of years before that, 2009, 2010. Played against him in a challenger, in a qualifying of I think it was a qualifying of a challenger, and I played this guy, had a big serve, not much else, and I got him, but then a few years later, played him in Davis Cup when he was about top 10 in the world, and the guy's serve was just unreal. He would be, serving 135, 140 miles an hour, and then you would, maybe back it up a little bit or try to change things up, and then he would throw in the kick serve wide on the first, and he just had all the tools, around the serve. So it was really fascinating to play against him, kind of hard, but myself and Raven Clausen, we got a great doubles win that week where we beat Nestor and Pospisil in the doubles match and kind of kept the tie alive to go to the Sunday, although we lost the singles matches. It was one of my highlights, I would say, as a South African tennis player, beating those kind of guys in doubles. Nestor was #1 in the world for a long time, and Pospisil, Grand Slam champion.
Yeah.
It was a good win for us, in dubs. But it was great playing Raonic too, and it was a great experience.
That is awesome. Who was your partner in doubles that weekend?
Raven Clausen.
It was Raven.
Tour top 10 doubles player, phenomenal guy, good friend of mine, just a class act, and I'm so happy that he's still out there crushing it, on the doubles tour. So
awesome. You mentioned Wes Moody. I remember Wes played at Boise State, and then a couple of years later won Wimbledon doubles with Stephen Huss, an Aussie and a South African pair. So you probably picked up a few things from Wes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Coming through qualifying, they did, I think, through the qualifying of the doubles, and they won it. So I think they're the only team who has done that, or up to that point. Maybe Nielsen and Murray did it.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember if they were a wild card or if they were qualifiers. But no, Wesley Moody, definitely, I learned so much from him, traveled with him to a few tournaments. And I remember a couple of things, always on the funny story was that my first time when I played Wimbledon qualies, I was playing in the final round. I snuck into the qualifying draw at Wimbledon in 2008. But actually, to backtrack, I went to England to. I don't want to make a long story, short story long, but I played in played a warm-up event in Surbiton Challenger. Came out, the grass was really wet. First tournament on grass for me in forever, basically. Came out first, serve and volley, slipped on the court. The ball basically just dribbled by me for a winner, And I was like, wow, this is going to be a long day. And this is like qualifying of a challenger. I lost to this guy who apparently didn't even play anymore. He was a banker, but he was a good player like a year before, and he started working in the corporate world. And he just came out for Surbiton because he's still good and kind of semi-retired. Lost to that guy first round, and I'm like, gosh, this is brutal, And then I didn't get into Queen's qualies because Queen's qualies was so tough. I was like 290, couldn't get into Queen's qualies. Thought I was going to get in. So I spent 2 weeks just practicing, and I was just practicing like 3 times a day. Anybody who would practice, getting like pros, Rajiv, and all these guys just, hey, you want to practice? You want to practice? So I'm just like setting up practices for like 2 weeks, and then I got to Wimbledon qualies, and I was basically like playing really well because I was practicing grass so hard, and my game was coming together, and so. Going into the final round of Wimbledon quali, if you play 5 sets, your first 2 rounds or 3 sets, final round 5 sets. I talked to Wes Mooney, and Wes is like, listen, man, like, you got to make sure you take enough food, because you got to be ready to go out there for like 4 hours, or 3 hours, whatever it could be. So I remember that was the first tip he got me. He was like, hey, remember to eat through the match, like make sure you're fueling because you got to be ready to go. Like, and also, at Wimbledon, the final set is no tiebreak, right? So, and with the serving and big serves, and you could play for a long time, So that was a great tip, and luckily I won in 4 sets and made it into the draw. But it was a
main draw
because 2 weeks before that I was like, wow, I lost to a guy that isn't even playing tennis anymore, Anyway, but that was Wes gave me some great tips over the course of my career, and great guy to look up to, just a class act as well,
Good stuff. Well, set 1 is as Craig always says, it's about your background as a tennis player. Tell us a little bit. We've talked a little bit about Old Dominion, talked a little bit about the Tour and Davis Cup. Tell us a little bit about growing up in South Africa and how that prepared you for playing on the world stage.
Yeah, South African, late 80s, early 90s, that's where I grew up. And my parents used to play tennis at a club, and they used to watch. For some reason in South Africa, because of the time zone, we watched a lot of French Open and Wimbledon, but especially Wimbledon. That was a tournament that, even if you weren't a tennis fan, people knew about Wimbledon. And we have a great sporting culture in South Africa. People love sports. We have had past very good players like Kevin Curran and, Johan Kriek, who you guys had on the show, and I listened to that. It was a great episode. Great tennis culture, sports culture. And I grew up watching the Becker and Edberg. And then this guy came along, Pete Sampras, and then I really fell in love with the game, and I loved the way he played the game. And and I just really wanted to play professional tennis, or I loved the game. Played a lot of other sports as well. The culture is such that you play rugby. Everybody plays rugby in primary school, so played some rugby, cricket, a lot of track and field, long jump, sprinting, things like that. So spent a lot of time doing that, and I think it really helped me in terms of developing my athleticism. But I always had the passion and the love for tennis. I just loved the fact that I could go out there and I wasn't relying on anybody else or dependent on anybody else, or, needed to worry if my teammates were going to play well today. I could just go out there and do my thing. So I really enjoyed it. And then at 14, I went off to a boarding school in Pretoria. I grew up in Johannesburg, went to a boarding school in Pretoria, and they had a tennis academy there. And that's where I really developed my game, because I got to play with really, really good competition. Everybody was older than me. And that's when my game took off. And I realized that I think I could have a shot at, or I should really push myself a little bit harder to get into professional tennis. And at 17, I finished high school 1 year early with the thought of going to college. And, my parents kind of helped me with that. And they're like, hey, why don't you finish school 1 year early? Because you're kind of running out of competition here in South Africa. And then I did that. And my coaches there, they kind of organized like a sponsor for me to play professional tennis it's like a sponsor for 3 years. And we actually decided against that and instead go to college, get a degree, play college tennis. We knew a couple of other people that went from South Africa that played college tennis. So we knew it was good competition and it was a great place to develop. And, in that summer, I met some coaches from Old Dominion, Daryl Cummings, and then his assistant coach, John Hill, who used to be a top 100 player back in the 80s. Great guy. He was in South Africa. He saw me play. They offered me a really big scholarship, pretty much full scholarship. And my parents were comfortable to, send me away at 17 to the States and to kind of pursue the dream. So South Africa was a great place to grow up. I mean, I think our sports, it's really good. I mean, people have a really appreciation for sports, playing sports. We have good weather. So I think it's a great place. Where South Africa struggles is once kids become like 16, especially in tennis, to then develop them from 16 to 19, 20, to really make them mature and get the right competition, because we just don't have enough tournaments there. So you have to travel. And that was a challenge for me. And luckily, I finished school early so I could go to college and get that development and continue to develop. But that's really the challenge. I think if you look at all our junior tennis teams and juniors, they are at a very high level, I think in the 12s and the 14s. And then in the 16 and 18s, they start dropping behind Europe and the US because there's just not enough exposure. But so luckily I was able to, fast track that a little bit and then come to college. And I had a great experience at Old Dominion. My coaches were so influential in me and just kind of helping me along. And maybe we can talk about, Old Dominion a little bit. But so South Africa was great. And great growing up there and great sports culture.
That's fantastic. As we wind down first set here, I do want to continue a little bit about Old Dominion. I also want to sort of frame the question like, here you are now coaching the top of men's tennis. You guys were in the quarters or semis of the last 2019 NCAAs.
Yeah, quarters. And we lost to Florida. Florida showed up well, and Texas won it. But we played Texas twice that year. We beat them on a neutral court at the Big 12s, and then we 4-3 at their place. So there's not much between those teams. But we unfortunately came up just a little short there. And two seasons ago, basically, because last season we got shut down by COVID.
So tell us a little bit about some of the things you learned. As it's going to be a two-part question here. Some of the things you learned as a player at Old Dominion on the tour, and then what you're using of those lessons as a coach at Baylor. And then the second part of that is going to be, we all know that there are a lot of excellent players in Division I who probably could make it on the tour if they did it and if they did it right. But here they are playing college tennis as either a stepping stone or, like you said, as a way to get an education. Maybe you can take us through not just the lessons from ODU to ATP to Baylor, but also what does it take for some of these guys, whether they're international or American, to make it to this astounding level?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that's something that we work with our players a lot. I mean, we're constantly thinking about that as a coaching staff, and I'm trying to draw on my experience. And that's why I love to be in college tennis, because I want these guys and kind of, some of the lessons that I learned, if I can help them learn those lessons maybe a little quicker, a little sooner, that's so, it's definitely a great feeling if you can do that. But I think the biggest thing is really taking ownership in your game. I think that was the thing that when I came to college, I really wanted to play professional tennis, and I saw it as a stepping stone. So and those coaches that worked with me in South Africa that had the sponsor kind of lined up, they told me, they told me one thing: hey, it's okay if you go to college, but make sure that every single day when you're done with practice, you get a little bit better. Because there's a lot of people that come to college tennis, they're high-level players. There's a lot of distraction at college. There's a lot of things that pull you in different directions in terms of academics and the social interaction and all the things that go on. You need to really understand your priorities and kind of prioritize what you want to prioritize. And everybody doesn't want to play pro tennis. Maybe they want to eventually become a lawyer or a doctor, and maybe then you have to prioritize your academics a little bit more. But
Izak, they really just want to be that banker to take a year off and somehow beat you on grass in Surbiton. That's what they want to do, man.
No, that's really funny. No, that's a hard one. That's a tough one if they just want to do that. But that's fine. That's a classic. No, that guy, I think his name was James May too. I mean, but anyway, I think he was the reason why I qualified at Wimbledon, because I trained really hard.
I love it. I love how you took a funny, difficult moment and then trained your butt off for 2 weeks and qualified at the cathedral of the game.
Yeah. No, and like the first point I played against him, I was flat on the ground, and I'm like, this is brutal. I thought this grass is going to be good for me. Everybody's been telling me this is great for your game, and I'm like, flipping and sliding. I can't stay on my feet, But anyway, I think the thing is to take ownership. So many times guys come from junior tennis, and it's a pretty big jump to college tennis, where all of a sudden in juniors, you usually play against a guy that's 18 and I'm 18, or I'm playing a guy that's 19 and I'm 18. So it's very close in age. Then you come to college and all of a sudden I was 17 and I'm playing a guy like Benedict Dorsch here from Baylor, or Benjamin Becker, who's like 2-3 years older than me, and they look like men. And I'm like, God, those are really good.
Yeah, they've got hair on their faces. They've got hair on the chest.
Yeah, and it was so great to be able to play against them. But I think it's a big jump, and then there will be a jump from college tennis to pro tennis again, quite a big jump as well. But and so the key thing I think for these guys are just really to take ownership in their games and understand that nobody else is going to do it for you. We try to enable these guys and give these guys the tools to really do it themselves, because at the end of the day, as a coach, you can't take the racket for them and play in the moment, right? You have to kind of coach them and teach them and help them be self-sustaining out there. Even when they go onto the tour, we don't want to coach guys that are so dependent on other people. They need to be independent and go out there and be able to deal with all the pressure, the travel, all these things, So where I think you can, in college, you can be in a bubble a little bit because everything is done for you. You have 3 coaches working with you. Your rackets get strong. The balls are taken care of. You have a fitness trainer. All these things are there. So I think the key thing that we try to help these guys with is really taking ownership and thinking for themselves, and kind of thinking about their games a little bit, making sure they get better every day, and then kind of prioritize their lives, accordingly, and make sure that they know why they're here, what their goals are, and make sure that every single day you're kind of working towards those goals. And I think that is the difference between guys that come to college and not get better and the guys that come to college that actually get better. The difference in taking that ownership. And I've seen that with a guy like Kevin Anderson or Benjamin Becker, who I know really well. Those guys I know really well, and those guys, worked hard every single day, and they never took their eye off the ball in terms of their goals. They really soaked up everything in college, but they knew that, hey, I'm going after more. I'm not happy to just settle here, and win some matches. So I think that's the key thing. I think that's what I learned at Old Dominion. I think my coaches can attest that I was always somebody that will, after a match, go to the coach and say, hey, coach, this really let me down. Let's go work on that for this next week. I need to fix this, and I need to do this better because this let me down, and I think when players can do that, they can have a long career, because they need to.
And speaking of long career, and maybe we can spin it into long relationships, I know you for how many years, and you're still buddies with Daryl Cummings and John Hill. Like, you guys play golf in the summer sometimes.
No, absolutely. Those guys helped me a lot. And there was a funny story. My first 2 years in college, I didn't really do anything. I didn't do that well. I didn't win a ton of matches. I mean, I think they knew I had potential, and after 2 years, I told them, listen, if I felt like maybe, we had a conversation that summer, and I said, like, listen, I want you guys to help me. These are my goals, and I need you guys to help me achieve those goals. And they were like, okay, we're all in, And then the next 2 years were phenomenal years at college for me. Made the semis of all the national tournaments, and singles and doubles. So it was really, I had good results, played against all these top guys, and fortunate enough to play against them like Isner and Amir Delik and Dorsch and Becker here at Baylor. So they helped me a lot. Daryl, I'm really appreciative, and what Daryl Cummings and John Hill meant for me in my career, and even beyond, beyond college. They've always supported me, and I always had a support base back in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, and I could go back and train and just have people around me that support me and my tennis career. So it's been really cool.
Awesome. CB1, anything else for set one, or should we head over to set two? Let's do it. Give us your thoughts, Izak, on Iga Swiatek and Kenin, and of course Djokovic and Rafa today.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun day, watching some tennis. I got to see a lot of the men's match. Didn't see a lot of the women's match. Saw some highlights. Amazing result by Swiatek. Just amazing, first Polish player to win a Grand Slam singles, I believe. I thought Kenin's going to win. I saw her earlier in the tournament playing some great tennis, using the drop shot really well in the wet conditions. It was fascinating, even watching the first few rounds, men's and women's. I just couldn't believe how many times guys went to the drop shot. It's funny because there's only one guy on the Baylor team that I say, like, hey, you can hit drop shots. All the others, like, you guys aren't allowed to hit drop shots, right? Because so often I see the drop shot as kind of like a way to just finish the point. We're just taking our hands out of the fire,
Bailout
play. But then watching the French Open and how well the players used it, but I do think that the conditions allowed for that. Obviously, clay is a surface where you can use the drop shot really well. And then the conditions being cold, wet, when it's cold, it's not just the moisture of the clay, but it's actually the energy in the tennis ball, like, goes down a lot, right? Because that rubber inside the tennis ball doesn't heat up, so it doesn't bounce as high. So yeah, players use it really well. I saw the stat because I started, kind of thinking about the conversation we will have tonight. I started Googling a little bit the drop shot and what happened. And Djokovic, I think in his first round, played 25 drop shots. And the guy that played against Team Gaston, he played a 5-setter, played the drop shot 50 times in 5 sets. And I counted the games because the sets were kind of short. It was 50 games. And he drop shot it 50 times. So that's a lot, and it was just fascinating to see that. And I think, I thought that Kenin's going to have it because with her drop shot, but I got to give some credit to Swiatek. It's just a phenomenal effort. I kind of read up on her a little bit, her history, and, she's been coming through the ranks. She had a little bit of a foot surgery, I think, last year. But her game looks really well sorted and such a good mover. And the anticipation and the feel around the court is I thought that was the most impressive thing. Just a great court sense and kind of has all the shots. So that was cool to see. And then when it comes to Djokovic and Nadal, I think sometimes it happens. I think the last couple of years this has happened where our expectations become so high, for some of these matches, and then they disappoint a little bit. I think back to when Djokovic kind of carved up Nadal in the Aussie Open. Maybe I think it was 2019. Was it last year? Last year, in the final where he beat him kind of in straights, and Nadal never had a chance to get into the match. And I felt like that a little bit watching it today. Nadal just started out, but you also see, I think you see that it's such a mental game. Nadal came out, got on top of Djokovic early with his game and with with everything, and to kind of stop that momentum is very hard, you know. And Nadal just took that momentum and kind of built on it, and he kind of won the mental battle. And you could see Djokovic just didn't have that belief, because he's like, how am I supposed to win these points? You know, Nadal's just not giving me anything. Three unforced errors in the first 2 sets, or something ridiculous like that. You know, so Rafa just kind of proved, you know, that he's the king of clay. And I don't think we'll ever see anybody get close to it, because I think about team, you know, how good a player team is and how good a player team is on clay. And he's probably the best clay courter in his generation. And he hasn't won a French Open, you know. He doesn't have a French Open. So.
Well, I worked very hard, no? I prepared like never before, no? I knew Novak was going to come out shooting, and I wanted to win the important points, no? And I knew he was going to try to make me run, but I'm ready, no? It was great fun. He's much better than me any other day, no? But today was my day, no?
I think yeah.
That's so cool.
I want to ask Rafa, you know, if he's the best ever now, or who is the best ever. That's my question for Rafa.
Well, Izak, you know, you are much better than me at serving. Roger is much better than me at everything, no? And Novak with all the mental. I managed to get lucky sometimes and work hard and roll my forehand. So that's all I can say, no? I've got to be humble. And my goal is to win maybe a couple more, no?
Yeah, the humble answer. It's great. It's great.
That match was painful. I mean, like long points. Like, yeah, that was painful. Craig, you call yourself a journalist, mate? Piss off. Next question.
Oh, that's too good. That's too good. That's classic. I love that. Little Nick Kyrgios out here. I mean, you can't say no to Nick, you know?
No, never.
Oh my gosh.
He's a classic, man. So, okay, set 2. CB, do we have any sponsors for this one? Is it Master Systems? Basketball. Love it. So faithful, wonderful sponsor. Set 2, here we go. Set 2, Izak. It's all about current and future projects. Current, we know Baylor University. We know there's kind of an interim or new head coach, and you're in that full-time assistant coach, and you get to do some stuff at some coaching at Waco Regional. Take us through a typical week and some of the duties, but also some of the big picture stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience here at Baylor, and you know, stepping into the assistant coaching role has been a lot of fun, and taking on some new responsibilities. Obviously, now you can recruit. You know, you can. Although we're in this dead period at the moment because of COVID, but it's been really fun to kind of dig into recruiting a little bit more and kind of strategize with Michael on the future and the squad. And so that's been really cool. You know, in the summer I was coaching here in Waco, and a couple of younger kids, and so that kept me busy, and you know, kind of trying to keep some of those relationships going. Some younger juniors, so you know, maybe I do a couple of lessons during the week, doing that, keeping those duties up. But then really most of the time is spent with the guys on the team. We have 9 guys in town, and then we have about 5 guys that are remote, that are doing kind of virtual classes, and a couple of guys in Germany and Romania and out in Taiwan, and then they'll come over in the spring, like maybe late December, and join the team, and we'll get prepped. So, you know, I think college tennis is interesting, but I think you can work as much as you want. I mean, you can always put more hours in, and there's just always things to do. So it's been keeping me busy. I've tried to learn a little bit more in this role as much as I can, basically, and it's been good, you know. So we tend to one thing we try and do here at Baylor is we try to individualize a lot of practices. So we try to be one coach and two players. So that makes for a kind of a longer day, and we spend more hours on the court because we kind of break the players up a little bit into different blocks during the day. So sometimes we could spend maybe 4 or maybe, here and there, we could spend 6 hours a day on the court, kind of covering all the players and making sure they get individual attention, because we don't believe in just running team practice, and coaching everybody the same way. I mean, we want to individually develop these guys, and that's a big philosophy for Michael, myself, and Baylor moving forward, and some of the things that we've learned before as well. And we want to continue to do that and just put in the time, because a lot of these guys want to go onto the pro circuit, and so they like the individual attention. I think that's how we can get them better. And I think if we do a good job with that, I mean, the results will follow. You 6 guys out there, and if you've built that trust between you and the player and done a lot of hard work one-on-one with them, then they kind of trust you when you do tell them maybe some hard truths after matches, or in the match, where college tennis is unique, where you can coach during the match, where in pro tennis you cannot, unless it's Davis Cup. That's the place where you can coach and where you have a coach on the court. So it's a unique system. But yeah, so we spend a lot of time just with the program and doing that, and so the week is busy, and you try and squeeze out some time for recruiting calls, speaking to players in other countries, and just telling them about Baylor and things like that. And yeah, so it's been really, really good. I've enjoyed it. Not too much else going on. I know, you and I have spoken about a couple of things, couple of projects that I think we could maybe, get off the ground in the future. And I think, we're thinking about some kind of video series on tennis. And I think the challenge in today's world is, because I talked to some juniors, and when I was coaching these juniors, and I always love to hear who are their favorite players. And I remember sometimes you ask people and they just don't even know, because the reason why they don't know is because they don't watch tennis. You might see a highlight here or there. They know Roger Federer had 20 Grand Slams. They know Rafa's the king of clay. And they know Djokovic gets defaulted sometimes. These kind of things, the headlines, they get the headlines, but I don't think they have a great appreciation for the game necessarily. And I think that's where the angle that we would love to come out of, if we think about this project of ours and growing the game a little bit and telling people great stories about tennis, if it's people, if it's clubs, the All England Club or Rome, the tournament there, and all the history around it. At the end of the day, we're competing with the cell phone, right? And that's the challenge. We're competing for attention, just like Netflix. We're going to have to compete for eyeballs, and I think we need to, look at what's worked in the past but also look at the technology in the future and how we can deliver that, because I think there's a big need for that. Sports is still, I think live sports still has a place today, and tennis is such a fascinating game with such a rich history that you can build a bigger fan base, by creating some content that will resonate with younger viewers and maybe college players or the general public or recreational players.
I love it. I without giving too much away, the idea of first-class, engaging, attractive storytelling that appeals to the people who love the game but don't love it enough or don't know enough about it, whether that's the pro tour angle or the, as you mentioned, the Wimbledon, Italian Open, Foro Italico, like the amazing, crazy history we have. And then there's also the fact that 197 countries have a Davis Cup team. Like a lot of people don't even know this. I'm so passionate, and I tear up a little bit when I see Wimbledon or the Italian Open or some of the ones you mentioned. But there's also like Davis Cup, Cameroon versus Senegal, and like that is where our hearts are beating too. That's amazing stuff.
No, at tennis, I remember every time we played Davis Cup, they would intro it as one of the, I think it's the biggest team competition in the world with the most countries participating, You know, even more than soccer, which you cannot believe, but it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we're part of a great sport, and I think in the future, if we can create some content that will help grow it
Yeah.
and bring new fans to the table, that would be,
Yeah.
you know. But I think
As
yeah.
Craig Bell calls it, the great game, and it's such a loaded expression. But
Yeah.
I love how he always calls it consistently. He calls it the great game, and it really, really, really is. You know. So yeah, that was good on current and future projects. Have one more little question that's kind of silly and fun. Actually, two. How I've always seen you with as an elite player and with elite players. What's it like coaching a 9-year-old girl? I think that's so fantastic that you coach a 9-year-old girl who's evidently really, really good.
Yeah, no, Emma Reed, she's really good. No, it's been a great learning experience for me. It's very different than coaching 20-year-old college guys, where I've done a lot of coaching. So yeah, you gotta change the way you coach a little bit, but I always tell the guys on our team that, man, as a coach, I'm learning from them as much as they're learning from me, because I'm learning how to coach and what works and what doesn't, and each player is so different. And then also each age, I think, is so different, where we're focusing more on development, obviously, now. With Emma, and you know, she's doing a great job, but sometimes you just gotta, you know, sometimes you want to kind of progress too fast. You know, you want to play too many points and too many tournaments, instead of like, let's build the base of the game, you know, like let's improve the technique, you know, let's build the fundamentals, you know, because eventually that will pay off. You know, maybe in the short term you take some losses because you're not playing enough live points or something, but yeah, so it's completely different. You also try and make it more fun.
Yeah.
So you got to be more creative. That's another thing that happens, I think, when you're coaching young players. So yeah, it's completely different. It keeps. I think it helps me as a coach to become a better coach. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then second of the small questions, who's the kid on the team who is permitted to drop shot?
It's Sven La.
Sven La. Yes.
From Slovenia, and I mean, he's permitted to drop shot in my book. No other guy yet, you know, has shown.
What a fantastic doubles player he is, and singles too. But remarkable feel, that guy. He's an average height guy. He's an exceptional mover with remarkable feel, right?
No, he's got a great game, and he can strike the ball beautifully. Great footwork movement. Yeah, so many great attributes, you know, and I would love to see him really put in the work this year and maybe in the next like 18 months to really see where his game can go, because I think he's got a bright future, you know, on the Baylor team, and then also after. And
folks at home, that's Sven La. It's spelled L-A-H, and he is a junior or a sophomore right now.
Yeah, he's a junior. He got another year, basically. Yeah, he got another year. Because of COVID. Everybody got another year, basically, because of COVID.
That's right. That makes sense. Makes good sense. All right, my friend. CB1. Yep.
Yeah, you know, it's a loaded question. I think, it's a good question. I think it's a good question. No, it's a good question. Obviously, UTR is driving a lot of college recruiting at this moment, and it's the best tool we have to kind of rate a player. Although UTR, we always say, I think UTR is very accurate, but it's only as accurate as the data that's going into UTR. So some players play maybe a little bit fewer matches or not enough or whatever, and then other players play a lot, you know, so their UTR maybe goes up depending on how they do. But you know, our team ranges between the mid to low 14s. I would say is the top 10 level college players. maybe there's a handful of guys that are at that level, and then we got a bunch of guys in the upper 13s, and then eventually I think, you got to be between 12, 3, 4 and up. That's, I think the level that most top 10, top 15 Division I schools are looking for. But then there's another part of it, which is the culture and fitting into the culture and looking at a player and watching some video and talking to them and trying to get a feel for where their head's at. Because if you can understand their mindset, you can, and this is another thing, when I spoke about ownership, the other big part is the growth mindset. I think most of the players that really get through college, they have a growth mindset because you take a lot of losses and you need to be able to process that and kind of turn it into something positive, and taking some of the obstacles and turning them into opportunities to improve, So sometimes you can tell by speaking to players over Zoom or in person if they do have that growth mindset where they kind of, they can deal with some adversity and things like that. So I think that's another part. So not only their UTR rating or how good they are in tennis, but I think that mindset and fitting into our culture specifically, which is a growth mindset, guys taking ownership, being tough out there and not, being entitled or think that, we're just going to do everything for them. We want to have disciplined players that can kind of take care of themselves, So those are kind of the big attributes that we like to see in players, that come to Baylor.
Yeah.
You see, yeah, I would say they would. It would be a completely different team that would, they will field this year, but they are the last champions of the NCAA. And it's a tough conference. It's interesting. We only have 6 teams in the conference, that play men's tennis. So it's a small conference, but very, very tough teams. TCU is really good. Texas, Oklahoma, Texas State, so there's some good, Oklahoma State's good team too. So everybody in the Big 12, they're very good. So no, you got to show up. You got to show up every time you play.
That's right.
Hey, like as a coach, you just try to not screw things up. It's like try to not say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Even the right thing at the wrong time.
That's right.
It's interesting, the coaching on the court. Very interesting. I've always been a player. Like I think you get used to pro tennis where you don't get coached, and it's just like you and your opponent. But in college tennis now, you're kind of actively coaching out there, and I think sometimes you can actually do some harm to your player because he's in the battle, and if you're seeing something and you want to get that message across, and it's a very delicate situation how to coach him in those pressure moments. It's very fascinating actually.
I want to brag on my co-host and our guest tonight. I've seen so many times Izak will take a very, very good player and high ranked who has lost the first set, maybe 6-3. And he calmly talks to them. And in an hour and a half later, these guys are winning the whole match. And Craig Bell is known as Ocho because when he takes a recreational team out there on a Thursday, if he's the one warming them up, they're winning 8 points. They're coming back with all 8 of 8. So folks listening at home, Dave and I, we're in very good company with these two, Ocho and Izak. Hilarious moment.
I can imagine that. I need to probably go YouTube it, but I can imagine that. That sounds pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Really.
All right.
And then did she win after that? Yeah, I mean, You know, sometimes you just want to know your coach believes in you. You know,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's about enough. You know, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, 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 pretty cool. I when I was at college, like my coach would tell me, "Hey, why don't you just hang back a little bit on this point? You know, like just make some ball." Like I would be like, "No, I'm serving a volley. I'm sorry, you know." So I'm just like, I'm gonna go for the ace, and I'm serving a volley, and that's it. I mean, so you know, I always think about that when I'm trying to, you know, give some advice to the players. I'm trying to be, you know, mindful of their games, and yeah, it's a fascinating. That is something that I think you always try to learn from and get better at, you know, coaching in those moments, and where you have kind of carte blanche to kind of say and coach in between points if you want.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's not a normal thing in our sport, you know, outside of tennis, you know, outside of college tennis. So something to get used to, and something to, I think you see it that coaches tend to overcoach, and they do more harm than good. And that's where you have to hold back a lot, you know, even though you might have the right answers. If the player's not in a space to take that advice or that input, then it's going to backfire, even though you might have the right answers, you know. So it's definitely a fascinating dynamic being on the court with these guys, especially these high level players, you know, that really own their game well, and hopefully they play some pro tennis in the future. And a lot of these guys, you know, high level players, I think they tend to be stubborn, you know. I mean, that's how they become so good. You know, you see it on the court too with Djokovic. He looks like a pretty stubborn guy out there, you know. So no, it's been a fun experience, you know, being in the college coaching world.
Awesome.
Yeah, do I have to say college? But no, actually, you know, personally, I mean, I love college coaching, but I think I prefer the non-coaching on the court. I do think that tennis, yeah, should be played with. There shouldn't be a coach. It's one of the few sports where you do not have anybody out there, and I think it makes it unique. And yeah, it's such a mental game, and it's mano a mano, you know, you're in the battle, like Agassi described it, you're like the gladiators out there. And I think there's something to be said for that, and I love that part of it, you know. And if you can't figure it out, then at least you can go after the match and go practice. And that's, I think, where we as coaches have the most impact, is during practice, you know. And we always say that we want to coach our guys so that we don't have to coach on the court. We want to be so well prepared, and these guys be able to own their games and problem solve on the court, that they don't need us, you know, to do that. We don't like when the player's just looking at us for feedback the whole time, because then then that doesn't look like the player's believing in himself and in his game, and he thinks that I have all the answers when I think has the answers. It's just to allow him to get to those answers. That's the key, you know. So I think if we do our jobs really well, these guys should go out and be able to problem solve and assess matches and make adjustments out there, and deal with their emotions, and the players and the umpires and the bad calls and all that, you know. So I think that's how I see the game. And yeah, so I kind of prefer the non-coaching thing, and yeah, but I love the college coaching, you know, environment too. So
Good stuff, guys. Yeah, excellent first and second sets. It's time to let loose and have a little fun with the third set. CV1, what do you got?
awesome. Yeah.
EDU.
But hey, I mean, if this COVID thing lifts a little bit and come out to our matches in the spring, it's a great facility and one of the best in college tennis, and we love to have the fans out there. I think last year against UCLA we had about 1,000 people, and it was amazing.
It was the loudest, most fun match I've ever seen, and I remember driving down, and you were even nervous. She was like, "Man, if you don't get there really early, it might be raining. We're going to be indoors, and then it's only 200 people."
That's right.
Yeah. And that was the one I remember you helped Will Little. He was outgunned for about 30 minutes. That guy, Patrick, big boy, German boy from UCLA.
Yes, yes.
And I felt it that you helped Will, and Will has become a coach also now. Little.
Yeah, he was a volunteer at SMU, and he's actually just moved out of that into the accounting world. Where he got his master's in accounting, and so he's a little bit transitioned out of the coaching.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great match, and the atmosphere. I've never experienced anything like that at a college match.
All 6 courts, every court was absolutely packed. Some people didn't even know it was a tennis match, and most people were like me, like so into it. UCLA Baylor, and it was so loud, and I think the lights were just coming on at 7 or 8 o'clock. It was unbelievable.
It's a great setting, it really is. I mean, I joke about that, it's a great office, to work in, when the sun starts to set at the Hurt Tennis Center. It's beautiful out there, and very fortunate to be able to coach college tennis. So.
Awesome.
Yes, it was. I don't know how strictly the fans were abiding by that, but it was an effect. And but I do agree with that. I think you can't, when the guy tosses up, you got to be respectful a little bit. I think. Oh God. Yeah. The word on the street was that there was a guy in the crowd that was reading a bedtime storybook, like loud, like really loud, because he didn't want to, he didn't want to say anything, curse words or nothing, and he had a book that he was reading out of, like a Baylor fan, loudly. And it was so distracting to people. And this was I wasn't here, but this was when that rule was not in effect, and people did whatever, and it just sounds like a circus, So, I mean, you got a point there. You got a point, right? Yeah, I can't argue too much there, Gosh. First band was back in so I would say it was the Killers, back in at Old Dominion, so good band. I was like, who's this, the Killers, and I'm like, and my friends were like, no, these guys are good, we got to go see them. It was their first album. I kind of went, and great time, they kind of blew up, and it was great to have seen them live.
They evidently, here it is, like 15 years later, they still have a hit on the charts.
Yeah, they just came out with an album recently, and I've been listening to it. It's good. Yeah,
awesome,
good stuff. No, I mean, probably my favorite band is Radiohead. I've seen them in concert twice, and I. It's a great concert. But if I take them off the table, I would love to see U2 or the Rolling Stones. I feel like those two bands will do a great job, putting on a show. Something not like, U2 toured the US, and I think they were at the AT&T Stadium at one point, but it's so big. I mean, I would love to see them, maybe some sort of outdoor arena. I mean, Red Rocks in Colorado is obviously like an amazing place, but I think seeing them at Red Rocks could be cool. I think that's a great venue. So when COVID lifts, I would love to go to Red Rocks and go see some concerts. Kind of rock and alternative, kind of Radiohead, U2, Coldplay, older rock, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Mumford and Sons are great, Lumineers, great band, Yeah, so kind of like more on the alternative rock side of things. Yeah. No, not Britney Spears, not a lot of country. I know country is huge here, so yeah, I kind of stick to those genres, and yeah, I mean, so that's what I like, so. I'll tell you, Craig, I have never thought about this. This would be the first time I've ever thought about this, like having an answer for this question. Listen, I've thought about like playing an instrument. Would love to play the piano, but I've never thought about being in a band and where I would be. It would definitely not be the lead singer, 100%. Whatever the position is where you're the furthest away from the mic, that's where I would be.
That is you. But I should mention, it's about 67% of our guests say lead singer. Believe it or not.
Really? No way. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I'm whatever that role is. The furthest away from that mic, I think I'm good. But maybe a keyboard or something. I don't know. No, I can't. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I got what's that? The SNL. It's more cowbell,
Here in
no, it was here. I was at Texas Instruments, I would say, after doing my MBA in Dallas. After the tour, I did my MBA at UT Dallas, and then I worked for Texas Instruments in corporate finance for about 3 years before I came to Baylor. So that was an interesting experience, and great people, met a lot of good people, great company, and yeah, I kind of missed the sports world a lot. And
fans yelling and screaming, in a college match down in Waco, man, you didn't get that at TI. You didn't get that in the lunchroom, maybe, huh?
No, I did not.
What do you like to watch? Like on Netflix or like movies, TV shows? Do you have any favorites? What do you watch?
I mean, I love movies. I'm a big movie guy. The shows, sometimes I feel like Netflix is a bit of a black hole. There's just too many, But a couple of recent ones on HBO, I really enjoyed Newsroom a couple of years ago. I like the show actually out on Apple TV Plus. It's called The Long Way Up with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman, where they ride their motorcycles from the southern tip of Argentina all the way up to LA. They've done one around the world from kind of London going east, and then they did one from Scotland going south all the way through Africa, ending in Cape Town in South Africa.
So, unbelievable.
Yeah, those shows are phenomenal. And I mean, you kind of learn a little bit about different countries and things like that. And it's just very funny. And then I'm a huge car guy, as Adrian knows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So, things like Top Gear or the Grand Tour with Jeremy Clarkson and those guys, the British guys. That
Izak, you turned me on to Donut Media, which is hilarious. It's not really a show; it's more just a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you enjoy doing with your cars, or with just watching or tinkering or modding up your car.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to find, like a 2005 Porsche 911 down in Austin.
Nice.
Kind of fit the bill, and yeah, a guy was willing to sell it to me for a decent price, and yeah, so I got into cars a little bit more and owning my own car, and something that I feel like is a little bit collectible, and I just like to tinker a little bit, make some small modifications, cosmetic, a lot of it, but then also doing things like oil changes and doing a little bit of work on it. A couple of friends of mine at TI, actually, they were into cars, so they kind of helped me along too, and I learned from them. And your friend Jack Griffin is a big car guy, Baylor alum.
Yeah, tennis player too. Yeah,
and hopefully I get to meet him and get to know him a little bit better in the future. But yeah, I love cars. Love these car shows. Donut Media is phenomenal. Just the history.
Yeah.
I love the history about different cars and how these guys came up with the things and how it developed. And I mean, the car is such a such a, you know, I mean, status symbol, but it's a place where we spend a lot of time, you know, and there's a lot. It's very it's kind of like the Clarkson would say, it's kind of like a living thing, you know. You kind of live life with this car, and you spend a lot of time, and and so it's pretty cool. I love the car culture. I mean, I think some people don't get it. It's just a, you know, it's just a means from getting from point A to B, and that's fine too. But I think there's a huge car culture in the US and in other places too. South Africa, the UK, it's huge. And yeah, I just love that. I mean, you get Cars and Coffee. Adrian's been to those Cars and Coffee. Seeing all the cars come out and guys that are passionate about it, it's a lot of fun, you know. Just to,
you all drive on the wrong side of the road though down in South Africa, you know.
Yeah. I actually, no, that's pretty funny.
Do you find it difficult going back and forth? Do you find it difficult going back and forth? You know, when you go home and then, you know, you spend a lot of time over here.
No, it's pretty funny. Like, you pick it up pretty quick. I feel like I'm just kind of both ways. But there's a funny story. But I was playing a tournament at Lexington way back when I was playing some challenger, and I came out of the driveway of the people that we were staying with, and for like 100 yards there was no cars on the road. Came out of the driveway and just started driving on the left-hand side of the road, like 100 yards. And there was a stop sign down the road, and I saw like, wow, yeah, that car's on the right side. That's in my lane. And I'm like, oh, yeah, actually, I'm not in the right lane. That was the only time when I had, and it was just random. It was totally random. I was maybe not thinking about anything, and there were no cars around it. But you know, the people ask that, but when there's a lot of cars around, you don't think about it, and you kind of just follow the traffic, follow the flow, and you get used to it. The one interesting thing is the gear shift. You know, we drive a lot of manual cars in South Africa, and then my car here is a manual, like the Porsche is a manual, and so that's a little different, shifting with the different hand, you know.
Lefty over there, and then we shift over here with the wheel here and the shift on the right.
So it's interesting. So here you have to kind of steer with the left, you know, and shift to the right, and there you steer with the right, shift to the left. Different dynamic, different coordination. So that's something to get used to.
All right, 4 people now. We know you invite the 3 of us to your soiree, this dinner party, but 4 other people or more that you would have at a dinner party, kind of like somebody on Mount Rushmore. It could be tennis, it could be anybody in history. We've had some crazy answers to this question. In 60 episodes of doing this, is our 61st episode. We've asked this question. We've had some interesting guests at the dinner party. Who would Izak be inviting to the dinner party? Like I said, it could be way back in history. It could be anybody.
I think I would go with. Pete Sampras. I would want to have. He might not be the most entertaining guy, but I would love to have a chance to have dinner with Pete Sampras because he was like my idol as a tennis player. So I think he would be one. I think maybe, people in history like like Nelson Mandela would be very interesting to have a dinner with. Other people that I think could be interesting. I mean, there's some. Maybe. Could be some movie actors, like maybe some comedians even, like a guy like, I don't know, like it's a tough question.
That's a good question. That's why we ask it.
I think Pete's one.
Pete Nelson Mandela.
I'm thinking about a couple of other people that could be interesting. Daniel Craig, like James Bond.
There we go. Now we're talking. Okay. James Bond guy here. All right.
Like his movies. If I think of one more, I'll let you know.
So
it's funny you mentioned Nelson Mandela. You turned me on a year or two ago to that brilliant movie Invictus, and just 6 hours ago, I saw a woman with a T-shirt with a really cool Nelson Mandela quote. It said, "I've never lost. I have won, and I have learned." Nelson Mandela. I thought, we're going to talk. Number one, I love this. And number two, we're talking with Izak tonight, a man from this country. And I see Izak as this way. Of course, he's lost a few matches, but he's always learning. And even as a coach, a business person, when you were an MBA student up here in Dallas, you're always learning, always learning. And if there's something that I want the people, I realize this is the third set and we're having fun, but
there's something I want people to take from this is some of his nuggets about ownership and coaching, but also this Mandela quote, which I feel this young man lives. So thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks for throwing that out there, Adrian. Yeah, that's really cool. No,
So-
I think he's a great person. Like he did a lot for South Africa, bringing the two cultures together, and great guy.
So as a follow-up to this dinner party, are we serving
Good.
South African meal, or are we serving more of an American meal?
South African, like I think South African braai, which
We're
is
having a braai.
There we go.
Yeah.
braai, so for sure. No, we'll have to throw some lamb chops on
There
there,
you
like
go.
some South African sausage, maybe some steaks too, so no, for sure, South African at this dinner party. Mandela would like it. So
Sounds good. We're ready to go to the braai.
We're
ready.
in.
We're in.
I'll help you fire it up.
yeah, no, that's cool.
East Coast or West Coast? Are you East Coast guy, West Coast guy, you think?
I love the west of the country. I feel like I have a soft spot for Virginia, because I spent a lot of time there and went to school at Old Dominion and love that part of the country too. But I love the west. I love the outdoors, camping, hiking, mountain biking. So I, maybe leaning a little bit more to the west, not too far west, where I have to get stuck in 405 traffic in LA, crazy people and stuff or whatever, but just the west of the country. I love it.
Mountains or beach? Mountain guy, beach guy?
I like the mountains. I think maybe a little bit more. But if you can have both, like in Cape Town, you have the mountains and the beach. So I don't think you have to choose, you can have them both.
Now, do you like the mountains like in the wintertime or more mountain summertime?
Mountain summertime where you can mountain bike, hike, and definitely mountains in the summer. I've never skied, tried to stay away from that stuff when I was playing tennis. So never had the chance to really ski or do any of the snow sports. And obviously in South Africa, we don't have snow. So never done that, but maybe at one point I'll take the plunge. But there are so many other things I like to do. I don't know if I'm going to have the patience to be bad at skiing, when I can go mountain biking, hiking, play golf, things like that.
Are you a sunrise guy or sunset? Morning or evening?
I love the sunrise. I mean, the morning, I do like the mornings, but when people ask me, am I like a night owl or like a morning person? I'm like, well, when the sun's up, that's when I want to be up. When the sun's down, I want to shut it down, So I'm not a big night guy. I think I'm probably more a morning person, especially getting older. I'm more of a morning person than a night owl.
Older. He's not even anywhere near 40 yet, this guy.
All right. Favorite season? Are you a summer guy, fall, winter, spring? What's your favorite season?
Yeah, I like the heat. I mean, so I do like summer. I like the heat. I used to love playing tennis in the heat, hate playing tennis in the cold. I like the heat. I like playing golf in the heat. You hit the ball further, So love the summer.
So the heat like a Florida humidity type of heat, or maybe more of a
Dry Arizona heat.
Dry Arizona heat, or
more like if it's 85 in Texas, I enjoy that.
Okay.
Like we had a couple of nice days here last week. I felt like it was high 80s, but it was not too humid. It was beautiful. We practiced a little bit late in the day here at Baylor and didn't want to be anywhere else. So
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday?
It has to probably be Christmas. I've never spent Christmas outside of South Africa, with my folks and some of my brothers there. So I love Christmas. I do appreciate Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, we don't celebrate that in South Africa, but great holiday. And I think Christmas in South Africa is the closest thing to Thanksgiving because that's the time when families get together and they have a great meal together. So that's kind of like our Thanksgiving. It has the same feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird because it's in the summer, and people go to the beach.
So
I think it's kind of strange for the Northern Hemisphere to really get, but it's a fun time. Summer in South Africa is a great time, and then Christmas rolls around, and it's good.
Yeah, so I was thinking, because in the Southern Hemisphere, you don't get the white Christmas. We think about, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. That's all the the northern hemisphere. So you guys are more kind of outdoorsy. A brie at Christmas would be apropos.
No, we'll do a braai, and it's funny. People go to the beach on Christmas, and you go spend some time on the beach, or we tend to have a huge lunch, and then we would go take a nap or something, and then we would go at like 5 p.m. we would go to the beach and go swim, get some exercise, and maybe work off some of that lunch that we had.
Is cricket going on at that time, or rugby? Any like that?
Yeah, actually, cricket. Yeah, cricket is a summer sport. So sometimes there is some cricket going on. Usually they start the day after Christmas. Is when the cricket. There's always Australia's playing. I think they always play the day after Christmas. Sometimes South Africa plays against them, and so South Africa could be playing the day after Christmas too. So it's kind of fun too.
Do you like the shorter cricket matches, or do you like the longer, tests?
I like the tests, the long. I'm a huge I love the Wimbledon. I like I like ad scoring, and I love test match cricket. I love test match cricket because it's very strategic, and some people are like, well, it ends in a draw after 5 days. How can that be? But I'm like, during this match, this thing could have gone either way, and it's like a pendulum that swings one way and the other, and it's really it's fascinating. It's a fascinating game, and I love the test match cricket, and it's on like all day, so you don't have to be paying attention the whole day. You can kind of nap on the couch and just kind of hear something happen, and then you watch it for where it's like getting towards the end of the day, and you're like, okay, this is an important moment where the test match might hinge on some certain plays and things like that, and then you kind of pay attention, and then other times for 3 hours nothing would happen, So it's really cool. I like that sport. Cricket is great. I really love it.
What do you like to do in your spare time, if you have any spare time?
Yeah, I do love to play golf. My brothers play golf. My dad plays golf. So we used to always make a nice 4-ball and play some golf together. And so that's something that I like to do. Like I mentioned, I love to mountain bike. And Cameron Park here in Waco has some great mountain biking trails. Okay. So luckily that's just 5 minutes from where I live. So I can always go mountain biking. And then just kind of relaxing, try to read as much as I can and watch some movies and, things like that. It's kind of listen to music. So that's kind of my main things.
Well, we're rounding the corner. We're going to our third set of this actual fast hands, rapid fire is what we call. This is more the tennis. We get to know kind of some tennis questions here. Indoor tennis or outdoor tennis?
Outdoor.
Outdoor. What's your favorite surface? Do you like hard, grass, clay?
Grass.
100%. Grass. Yeah. Interesting.
Not even close. It's not. Yeah, not close. I think that I was telling another guy. Sports is meant to be played on a grass field. I just feel like when you step onto a grass field, it just feels like you need to play some sports on this. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad we still have a grass court season in tennis.
Do you have an embarrassing moment in tennis? Do you have an embarrassing story that you might want to share? That like a tweener that went wrong, or
In tennis, I'm trying to think. Gosh, I mean, not off the top of my head. I must have to. Yeah.
We'll come back to that. What's your favorite tournament? What's your favorite tournament?
Wimbledon, for sure.
Really? You see, like the. You like the Wimbledon?
Yeah, love it.
How come? Why do you like Wimbledon? What's great about Wimbledon?
I just think that if you've been there and you've seen the grass courts, and there's something different about it, and the nostalgia and just the history, and it's completely different. And I think the French Open has also its own kind of thing going on. But the grass courts, I just think you see it, and it's something unique a little bit. We don't often see grass courts, and play on grass courts. So very unique. And I do think it still allows great athletes to come out, because you need a different kind of athleticism to play on grass, and a certain kind of movement that really comes out on the grass. That's pretty cool.
It sounded different. Roland Garros sounded different this year. I know they had the roof over on the last match between Joker and Rafa. I guess the weather was bad or something, but it sounded different in there. It sounded like Ash Stadium, it's hollow, kind of tinny.
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, it sounded like some of the semifinals matches sounded like an indoor match, or maybe in the quarters sounded really strange. And yeah, I guess October is not a great time to play the French Open. You know, hopefully they can move it back to May next year. You know, and have some better weather. But I do remember playing qualifying there, and one year it was hot and it was so much fun to play, and you can get through the court. And I remember there was a year where I lost to a Brazilian guy, and it was kind of raining in the match, and it was just painful. You know, you can't hit winners. It's cold. It's brutal. And I just watched some of these matches, and I'm like, you can't get through the court. You know, it's just too.
Who would you like to have played in your career that maybe you didn't get a chance to play? Would you like to play the King, Rafa? You know, did you get to, or maybe you played him?
It would have been a really tough day at the office, you know. I played Rafa or Fed or something, but maybe Rafa on grass. I would have like that would have been fine. I think I would have half served, I'm sure, a few times, and you know I could get the lefty off the court a little bit and make some good volleys into the open court, you know. So maybe Rafa on grass, I could have had some fun.
If and when you have kids, would you want them to play recreationally or competitive? What do you think that?
Yeah, if they want to torture themselves, they should play competitive tennis. You know, for sure. No, I think it's a great game, and it teaches you so many great lessons. You know, for a life after tennis. So yeah, no, I wouldn't mind if my kids want to play competitive tennis. If you have the right perspective, I think you can just extract a lot out of the game, and it's such a cool sport, you know. Kind of tough sometimes, but tough on the psyche a little bit. But it's a great sport. I wouldn't be, you know, I would promote tennis for sure.
What sport would have played if it wasn't tennis? If you weren't in the great game, what sport would you have liked to have played?
Yeah, probably golf. I would say, yeah, golf.
Oh, really?
I really enjoy golf a lot. I do think that sometimes I get. The one thing that I love about tennis over golf is the physical nature of the game. You know, sometimes you play a lot of golf and it's very mental, so mental, you know. And tennis, I love the physical component. It's very mental as well, but the physical component, fitness, you know, speed, all these things, I love that. You know, I love that about tennis.
So before we get down, we got two more questions. We had a question from Homer Munoz. Did Izak ever play Byron Talbot? Did you ever play Byron?
No, I didn't play Byron. No, we never got to play. I think we didn't really overlap enough, you know, to be able to play.
He's an old fart anyway.
I didn't say it that way, you know.
I did. I'll say he's an old fart. He's 55. I know that. I think he's playing. He's still a good player though. He's still a darn good player.
So and he's a great golfer too.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a really good game of golf, you know. So.
Yep. He's. We were playing today over at the Four Seasons. He and Chris Haggard. I mean, they were a lot of fun to play with. So I know you said you work for TI, but if you wouldn't have been involved in sports like you are right now, what would you be doing right now? Do you think?
I do. I do like the financial markets, and so maybe something in financial planning or, you know, something to do with the markets. I really enjoy that and kind of keep up with that in my personal life and part-time. And so, I think that's another place where I have a passion for.
Any quick stock tips that you might want to expound?
I was just about to ask that.
Okay, there we go. I mean, give us the secret here, Izak.
I feel there's a lot going on here with the COVID trends and stuff, but I wouldn't get into it too much. But there's a couple of good stocks out there, companies that are taking advantage of the the Teslas of the world and Zoom Video, DocuSign, and then Apple. You can never go wrong with Apple. I think that's just a great company that's creating so much value, you know, day to day. Amazon too. They've taken advantage of the COVID crisis big time, you know, and done a great job. Anyway.
Last question. Here's the big one. This is the creme de la creme. You know, drum roll here. All right. So if you could wave the magic wand, so you've got the magic great game wand, would you make a change or changes to the great game? Is there anything that you could think of that you would like to see happen, maybe, or maybe not?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a good question, because I think there's a lot of trends kind of pushing towards maybe shorter versions of the game. I do think that I do think that if they do want to shorten the game, they need to look at shorter sets, like the fast four versions, we play first to four. I think that's a really neat invention over the last couple of years, because the reason I say that is because sometimes you get into this dead zone in matches where a player is up maybe a break or two breaks and kind of nothing happens for a few games until the set's over. I think, and that's what the fast four, I think, kind of takes out. Now, it also takes out the comeback from 5-1 down or something like that, or 4-1 down a break, takes that out. But unless you're playing, I don't know. I think if you think about grass court tennis, like once you get that break, it's kind of tough to get the break back. So to reset and just go back to 0-0, that's kind of a neat thing. So I think that's something that I would promote a little bit more. Even maybe in college tennis, where college tennis, they try to shorten things a little bit with deuce no ad. So I like the fast four a lot. I think it's going to be good discussions that come up in the next few years. What happens with the Grand Slams? Because slowly but surely the 5-set matches are going away. Davis Cup, I guess, is start. I think have they already scrapped they've scrapped the 5-set version. So it's a shame in a sense, but I understand why they did it, because, it's just a long weekend, for these guys playing. I remember my last Davis Cup tie that I played, we played against Slovenia, and I played 3 sets day one, then doubles for 4 sets, and then 4 sets on the final day. And it was a lot of tennis. I was basically out for the next week, I was nursing injuries and whatnot, for a week and a half. And it's hard, and some of these top players, they have to do that 3 times a year, where it's just, when a Grand Slam, you get some time off in between the 5-setters. You have a day off and stuff. Davis Cup, you didn't, if you play doubles and singles. So I think, I hope they keep the 5-set versions, because I love the fact that they can reset and then you have to beat your opponent again. I think the essence of tennis is win by 2. You have to win by 2 with the, deuce and the ad. You have to separate yourself from your opponent. So that's important, I think, to keep. So I'm not a big, the tie breaks are fine, at the US Open. I think it's cool, but I don't mind Wimbledon's 12-ball breaker. I don't mind that. I think that's a cool way to do it. Hey, let's play another, couple of sets here and see if somebody can separate themselves from their opponents. And if they can't, then we'll do a breaker. So I like to extend it a little bit.
You don't want an Isner Mahut match again, 71-69?
No, I actually don't want that again. But I like it was fascinating that, when was it last year? They went to the 12-ball breaker with Djokovic and Federer.
That's correct.
First time they had it, and then that final went straight to that. But I also got the sense that they were kind of playing for it. They were like, well, we know it's coming. Let me kind of maybe save a little energy, knowing that breaker is on the horizon. So maybe that happens as well, But Mahut Isner was just crazy. That's just crazy, because both guys, it's about the returning. That's the tough thing on grass. After a while, it's really hard to return, because to get that low for a big guy, to get low and return, they just won't. They weren't going to break. So you just knew that was going to happen. So luckily we won't see that again, and that was cool to watch.
Well, I got one last question, because I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to. That was a great answer for the great game, but I wanted to shift really quick to James Bond, because we like James Bond, and I heard you say Daniel Craig, and that reminded me. Okay, who's your favorite James Bond?
Yeah, Daniel Craig for sure.
Daniel Craig, really?
I mean, Sean Connery was good. Pierce Brosnan did his thing early on, I think, in his couple of movies. But I like, I think the Bond can go either way. I think it's how good the movies are. I really enjoyed the Daniel Craig movies. I think they were really well done, and they were all excellent movies. And then, some of the Pierce Brosnan movies became really kind of lipstick, Hollywood-ish. But early on, they were really good, and Connery's movies were great, and he was a great Bond, obviously, And then in the middle there, there was just a lot of good and bad and everything thrown in, So
the Tim Dalton, Roger Moore, George Lazenby. David Niven.
Yeah, kind of random stuff. But I'm looking forward to the last one from Daniel Craig. I guess they pushed it out to April. I was hoping we could see it this year, but I think it's coming next year, or maybe not April next year, but I think it's pushed out to next year.
So you like the more rugged Bond as opposed to more the like the Sean Connery suave Bond?
I like the rugged Bond. It was pretty good. But I think Daniel Craig, he's more rugged, I would say. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
So double last question then. So who's your favorite Bond girl?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I figured, hey, we're on Bond. We love Bond.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Daniel Craig Bond girls.
Vesper Lind. You like Vesper Lind, the great Ava
that was Ava Green.
Ava Green, yes.
Ava Green, yeah, she was great. Yeah, she was really good. And then more recently, I mean, it had like different people in there. Monica Bellucci was in one of these last ones. I mean, Ava Green she was good. She was really, really good.
Yeah, I like Casino Royale. That was a really good one. That was a really good.
That was a great movie. That was a really good movie. I think it's time to maybe watch that again at one point.
That's right. Well, we've had a great almost hour and a half with Izak. We probably better call it a night for you, because I'm sure you have to get up and get the guys up early, right? Do you have to get the Bears going?
Yeah, we got to get the Bears going. Luckily, tomorrow's a little easier because our guys played on the weekend, and then we got a couple of guys practicing tomorrow afternoon, so it should be a good day. But usually we get out there pretty early for fitness in the mornings at 7 a.m. or so. So, sometimes it's a long day. But, yeah, I really enjoyed my time. Craig, thanks a lot. Dave and Adrian, thanks a lot for having me. It's been an awesome time.
Man, this has been so good, Izak. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Dave
you.
the Brain, well done.
Thank you.
Incredibly well-produced show. CB1, delightful co-host. Huge thanks. You want to sign us off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and before we do, just really quick, Izak, do you have one place that maybe people can email you? If anybody wants to know more about Baylor, how to come to Baylor, visiting Baylor.
For sure. I mean, our emails are on the Baylor website. If you go to the roster, the Baylor roster, and you look at the coaches, our emails are there. So you can find us pretty easily on the Baylor men's tennis website.
Okay.
And then. So email us there if you have any questions about Baylor or tennis or anything else, or James Bond movies.
Oh, hey, there you go. Right.
There you go.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Izak. You've been a great guest, and we've enjoyed our time with you at the net.
Same here. Thanks a lot, Greg. Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Queued up, Brain. Let's hear Jimmy Campbell with. All right, everybody, thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 61 of At the Net Podcast. Join us next week as we'll be talking a double episode, AJC, duel with Chris Lewis in the afternoon, former Wimbledon finalist. And then we have USPTA Master Professional / Australian Phil Lancaster coming from the outback of Australia all the way to ring the bell on Wall Street. It's a fascinating story from my former boss, Phil Lancaster. And then also join us Wednesday evenings, right? We do a little thing on Instagram, don't we, AJ?
Wednesday night, tennis shorts. We always have a blast with that. And how about the Southern Hemisphere here? Izak, Chris Lewis, Phil Lancaster.
Yes.
We've got 3 of the 4 major countries down there. Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa.
We've got it represented well, don't we? All right.
Quite a month, yeah.
All right. Lastly, be sure to tell a friend or friends as we like your peeps, and hopefully they'll like us. And that's the tennis news as it seems to us. Good night from Dallas, Texas, Philadelphia, and Waco, Texas. Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Fantastic show, guys. Well done.